The Galactic Consul chamber floated in the emptiness of space, a massive structure of crystal and metal that housed representatives from 847 different species. Today was supposed to be an ordinary session. Trade disputes would be discussed. Border agreements would be signed. Nothing important ever happened during the summer sessions. Ambassador G1 stood outside the speaking platform, her hands clasped behind her back. She wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her face showed nothing. No anger, no sadness, just the calm mask she had practiced for 3 days straight in front of her mirror. Inside the chamber, Consul Prime Vethrak was discussing grain quotas with the Agricultural Committee. His crystalline body refracted light across the room as he moved. He was ancient, older than most civilizations in the galaxy, and he had seen almost everything. But he had not seen what was coming. Jiwan pressed the button on her wrist device. A soft tone echoed through the chamber. She had requested emergency speaking privileges. The room fell silent. Emergency requests were rare. They usually meant war or plague or some other disaster. Vethrak's many eyes focused on her. Ambassador G1 of Earth, you have the floor. She walked to the center platform. 847 pairs of eyes or eye equivalents watched her. Some species whispered to each other. The humans rarely asked for emergency sessions. Honored members of the Galactic Consul, G1 began. Her voice was steady. I stand before you today to deliver a formal announcement from the United Human Territories. She paused, took a breath. Effective immediately, humanity will begin withdrawal from the Galactic Consul. The process will be complete within one standard cycle. We will honor all existing treaties during this transition period. Diplomatic channels will remain open for those who wish to maintain contact. The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then the chamber erupted. Delegate Thorum was the first on his feet. The tall reptilian being's scales flushed bright red with excitement. Finally, the primitives recognized their place. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not polite laughter, the kind that cuts. This is wonderful news, announced Representative Kress, a being made entirely of flowing liquid held together by a containment field. Perhaps now we can conduct our business without constant human interference. More voices joined in. The insectoid Krivix delegation clicked their mandibles in what passed for applause among their kind. The Yalton ambassador, a floating gas cloud, pulsed with colors that indicated joy. G1 stood perfectly still on the platform. She watched them celebrate. Her face remained calm. Ambassador Hyunwoo sat in the human delegation section, his military uniform pressed and perfect. His jaw was tight. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair hard enough to leave marks. But he did not move. He had his orders. Ambassador G1, Vethrak's voice cut through the noise. The chamber quieted. This is unexpected. May I ask the reason for this decision? Humanity has decided to pursue a different path, G1 said. That is all we will say on the matter. A different path? Thorum laughed. You mean you finally realized you don't belong here? It took you long enough. 200 years of watching you stumble through basic diplomacy. Several delegates made sounds of agreement. Your species has been nothing but trouble, added Ambassador Sirik of the Mendal Collective. Her aquatic features rippled with satisfaction. You are too aggressive, too emotional, too unpredictable. The Consul will be better without you. Jiwan's eye twitched, just once, so small that almost no one noticed. Hyunwoo noticed. We understand your feelings, Jiwan said quietly. We will remove ourselves as requested. As requested? Thorum spread his arms wide. We have been requesting this for decades. Finally, you listen. The chamber filled with the sounds of celebration. Species that had never agreed on anything before were unified in their joy at humanity's departure. They talked about dividing up human trade routes. They discussed claiming human colonies. They celebrated the end of human involvement in galactic affairs. Through it all, Jiwan stood on the platform and waited. Only a few species remained silent. The luminary observer, an ancient being of pure energy, watched from the high gallery without comment. The Drexian ambassador, a small furry creature with wise eyes, tilted his head and studied Jiwan's face carefully. And Consul Prime Vethrak observed everything with his many crystalline eyes, his expression unreadable. When the noise finally died down, Vethrak spoke again. Ambassador G1, I would like to request a private audience. There are matters we should discuss. I appreciate the offer, Consul Prime, Jiwan said, but all necessary information has been provided. Humanity's decision is final. We will begin the withdrawal process immediately. But surely, all necessary information has been provided, Jiwan repeated. There was something in her voice. Not anger, not sadness. Something else. Something that made Vethrak pause. Very well, he said slowly. Then we will proceed with transition protocols. Jiwan bowed slightly. Then she turned and walked back to the human delegation section. Hyunwoo stood and followed her. The other 3 human representatives gathered their materials in silence. As they left the chamber, Thorum called after them. Don't forget to take your primitive technology with you. We won't need it. More laughter followed them out. The door closed behind the human delegation. The sounds of celebration were muffled but still audible. In the empty corridor, Jiwon finally let her shoulders slump. Hyunwoo stood beside her, saying nothing. They have no idea, she whispered. No, Hyunwoo agreed. They don't. We tried to tell them. They didn't want to listen. Jiwon looked up at the corridor ceiling, blinking rapidly. How many years did we protect them? 234, Hyunwoo said. Give or take. And they think we're primitive. Yes. Jiwon straightened her uniform and put the mask back on her face. Well, they made their choice. We'll respect it. Yes, ma'am. They walked down the corridor together. Behind them, the Galactic Consul chamber continued to celebrate. Species that had opposed each other for generations were united in their joy. The humans were leaving. The troublesome, primitive, aggressive humans were finally going away. In his crystalline chamber, Consul Prime Vethrak watched the readings from his data screens. Something was wrong. He could feel it in the way Jiwon had stood there and taken their insults without response. He had known humans for 2 centuries. They did not accept disrespect quietly. They argued. They defended themselves. They got angry. Jiwon had done none of those things. She had just accepted it all and confirmed the withdrawal. That was not like humans at all. Vethrak began pulling up files on human activities over the past 200 years. Something was very wrong, and he had a terrible feeling that they would all understand what it was very soon. In the chamber below, the celebration continued long into the night. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the colony ship Everlasting Hope and watched his homeworld shrink in the view screen. New Seoul had been humanity's pride. Green valleys, blue oceans, cities that sparkled in the sunlight. 50 million humans had called it home. Now it was empty. All personnel accounted for, Captain, his first officer reported. We're the last ship out. Minho nodded slowly. Around New Seoul, dozens of other colony ships were breaking orbit. Each one carried hundreds of thousands of people. Everything they could take. Everything they had built over 3 generations. Set course for Rally Point Gamma, Minho said. Best speed. The ship turned away from New Seoul. Behind them, the planet looked peaceful and untouched. But everyone knew the truth. They had taken everything that mattered. Every computer. Every piece of advanced technology. Every weapon. Every ship. Even the manufacturing equipment had been dismantled and loaded onto cargo vessels. What remained was just buildings and farms. Empty shells. On the planet's surface, the Krivix delegation was landing. They had claimed New Seoul 3 days after humanity announced its withdrawal. They were already celebrating their new acquisition. Minho wondered how long it would take them to realize what they had actually received. Across human space, the same scene repeated itself. Hundreds of colonies, thousands of stations, research facilities, trading posts, shipyards, all were being evacuated with precision that disturbed the species watching. Dr. Soman locked the last data file and pressed delete. The quantum research disappeared from the servers. 200 years of collaborative research. Gone in seconds. You can't do this. The Drellian researcher beside her waved his tentacles in distress. This is our work too. 10% yours, Soman said calmly. 90% human contribution. The collaboration agreement states that all primary research belongs to the contributing party. But we worked together. Yes, we did. Soman shut down the main computer. And you called us primitive. You said our methods were clumsy and inefficient, so we're taking our clumsy, inefficient research with us. We didn't mean, yes, you did. Soman picked up her bag. Around her, other human researchers were doing the same, packing up, deleting files, taking equipment that belonged to Earth. You've been saying it for years. We heard you. We're just finally listening. She walked toward the transport ship. Behind her, the Drellian and 5 other alien researchers stood in an empty lab. All the equipment was gone. All the data was wiped. They were left with basic tables and chairs. The Drellian researcher looked at the empty room and felt something cold settle in his stomach. They would have to start from the beginning. Without human help, he suddenly realized he didn't actually know how to do half the procedures they had been running. The humans had always handled the complicated parts. On station Kepler 9, Ambassador Hyunwoo delivered the final status reports. The station manager, a being called Kelvor who looked like a floating jellyfish, reviewed the documents. "Everything appears in order," Kelvor said, "though I must say you humans are being very thorough. You're even taking equipment that was shared with other species." "Not shared," Hyunwoo corrected, "loaned under specific terms. Those terms included proper maintenance and usage protocols. Review Section 7, Paragraph 12 of each agreement." Kelvor's color shifted to confused purple. Section 7, Paragraph 12. "Every piece of equipment we provided came with conditions. Those conditions were not met in 73% of cases. Therefore, we are exercising our right to reclaim the equipment. But no one ever enforces those clauses. We are." Hyunwoo handed over the final report. "Humanity thanks you for your cooperation during our transition period." He left before Kelvor could argue further. Across the station, similar conversations were happening. The Yaltan discovered that the medical equipment in their clinic was being removed. The Bendari found that the agricultural processors they relied on were human-owned and being reclaimed. The Nexians protested when humans dismantled the water purification system that served the entire station. "You can't take that," the station's Nexian administrator shouted. "We need that to survive." The human engineer didn't even look up from his work. "Should have thought of that before voting to expel us from the Consul. The agreement clearly states this equipment remains human property. We're taking it, but people will die without clean water. Then I suggest you figure out how to purify water." The engineer finished disconnecting the last component. "We gave you the blueprints 3 years ago. You said you didn't need them because human technology was too basic for your advanced civilization." The Nexian administrator watched the equipment being loaded onto a transport. They didn't have the blueprints anymore. They had deleted them to make space for other files. They had been so certain they would never need human help. In the Galactic Consul chamber, Trade Minister Kale was beginning to notice problems. Several species were reporting issues with equipment that humans had reclaimed. Medical supplies were running low. Agricultural output was dropping on worlds that had relied on human-designed systems. "It's nothing serious," Kyle told the assembled representatives. "These are minor inconveniences. We'll adapt," but privately he was worried. The reports kept coming. More and more species were discovering that they had depended on human technology more than they realized. On the border world of Terminus, the local defense force watched in confusion as human peacekeepers packed up their base. "You're leaving?" Commander Vross of the Tillian Guard asked. "But who will patrol the neutral zone?" The human commander, a woman named Yunji, sealed the last container. "That's not our problem anymore. But the pirates will be your problem now." Yunji climbed into the transport. "We've been handling border security for 40 years. You never noticed because we kept it quiet. Now you'll get to do it yourselves. We don't have the ships. Should have thought of that before celebrating our departure." The transport door closed. Ross stood in the empty base and felt the first stirrings of real fear. The neutral zone was a haven for criminals and raiders. Human peacekeepers had kept it under control. Without them, he didn't want to think about what would happen. On Earth, Ambassador Jiwon sat in her small apartment and watched the news feeds. Colony after colony going dark as humans evacuated, station after station being abandoned. The reports from alien species ranged from celebration to confusion, to the first hints of worry. Her communicator chimed. It was Minho. "New Soul evacuation complete," he reported. "All personnel safe. The Krivix have already landed." "Good," Jiwon said.
"How are your people holding up?"
There was a pause. "They're angry, ma'am. They don't understand why we're giving up our homes." "We're not giving up," Jiwon said quietly. "We're letting go. There's a difference. With respect, ma'am, it doesn't feel different. G1 looked out her window at the Earth below, blue and green and beautiful, the cradle of humanity. Soon it would be the fortress of humanity, too. I know, she said, but they made their choice. They wanted us gone. We're respecting that, even though they don't know what they're losing, especially because they don't know. Ji-won closed her eyes. We stayed as long as we could, Minho. We tried to help. We tried to protect them. They didn't want it, so we're leaving. Yes, ma'am. The call ended. Ji-won sat in the darkness and thought about New Seoul, about all the colonies, about 200 years of human presence in the galaxy, ending not with war or disaster, but with a quiet withdrawal. In the Galactic Consul chamber, Consul Prime Vethrak continued his review of human activities. The more he read, the more concerned he became. Humans had been involved in thousands of projects across the galaxy. Peace negotiations, disaster relief, technology sharing, medical research, agricultural development, and they had done almost all of it quietly without asking for recognition. Why? His communicator buzzed. It was the Luminary Observer requesting a meeting. That was unusual. The Luminary rarely spoke to anyone. I will see them, Vethrak said. The Luminary appeared in his office as a soft glow of light. You are investigating the human departure. Yes, you are concerned. Yes, you should be. The Luminary's light pulsed slowly. They were not asking for help with their project, Consul Prime. They were asking you to help them help you. I don't understand. You will. The light began to fade. Soon everyone will understand. And by then it will be too late. The Luminary vanished, leaving Vethrak alone with his growing dread. 6 months had passed since the last human ship left Galactic Consul space. The celebration had long since faded. Now there was only silence from the direction of human territory. Every message sent to Earth came back as undeliverable. Every attempt to contact human colonies received no response. It was as if humanity had simply vanished from the galaxy. Trade Minister Kale stood in his office and stared at the reports covering his desk. They made no sense. The galactic economy was supposed to improve after the humans left. Everyone had said so. Humans had been taking up resources, demanding special treatment, interfering with established trade routes. But the economy was collapsing. Explain this to me again, Kale said to his assistant, a nervous Drellian named Vex. The medical supplies, sir. They're running out. We can't manufacture more because the key components came from human sources. So find new sources. We've tried. No one else makes them. The humans were the only ones who could synthesize the compounds properly. Kale rubbed his temples. What about the Yalton? They have advanced medical technology. Different type, sir. Not compatible with the systems most species use. Those systems were designed by humans 50 years ago. The Yalton never adopted them because they said human methods were too simple. And now? Now 70% of the Consul's medical facilities use human-designed systems and can't get the supplies they need. Kyle sat down heavily. What else? Vex scrolled through his datapad. Agricultural output is down 18% across the board, particularly on worlds that used human farming techniques. They can't maintain the equipment and production has dropped significantly. Can't they just go back to their old methods? Many of them don't remember their old methods, sir. They've been using human systems for generations. The list went on. Industrial accidents were up because human safety systems were gone. Shipping delays were increasing because human logistics networks were no longer operating. Minor disputes between species were escalating because human mediators were no longer available. Small problems, none of them critical by themselves. But together, they were adding up to something much larger. Kale dismissed Vex and pulled up the economic projections. If these trends continued, several major industries would collapse within a year, and he had no idea how to stop it. Security Chief Draven was having similar problems. He stood in the central command room and watched the tactical display. Red markers indicated conflict zones. There were 7 active disputes between Consul members, border raids, territory arguments, trade disagreements that had turned violent. 6 months ago, there had been none. What's the status on the Kelvin Praxis situation? Draven asked. His deputy, a Tillian officer named Mex, pulled up the report. Growing worse, sir. They're 3 days from open warfare. Deploy peacekeepers. We already tried. Neither side will accept our peacekeepers. They want neutral mediators. We are neutral. They don't trust us, sir. They say we favor one side or the other. They want... Mex hesitated. They want what? They want human mediators, sir. Draven's hands tightened on the console. Tell them that's impossible. I have, sir. Multiple times. They refuse to negotiate without neutral parties they trust. And they trust humans but not us? Apparently, yes. Draven studied the tactical display. The Kelvin and Praxis territories were right next to each other. If they went to war, it would destabilize the entire sector. Trade routes would close. Refugee crises would begin. Other species would get involved. What about the Bendari situation? He asked, trying not to think about the Kelvin-Praxis problem. Pirates hit another convoy yesterday. 7 ships destroyed. 83 dead. Where were the patrol ships? There weren't any, sir. That sector used to be covered by human peacekeepers. We haven't had resources to replace them. Draven pulled up the patrol schedules. Holes everywhere. Sectors that had been secure for decades were now vulnerable. And the pirates knew it. Attacks had increased by 40% in the past 3 months. How did we not notice the humans were doing all this? Draven muttered. They were very quiet about it, sir. They handled problems before anyone knew there were problems. Get me a full report on every security operation the humans were running. I want to know exactly what we've lost. Yes, sir. Draven had a feeling the report was going to be very long. In the Galactic Consul chamber, Consul Prime Vethrak called an emergency session. Representatives from all member species attended. The mood was very different from 6 months ago. We need to discuss the current situation, Vethrak began. Delegate Thorum stood immediately. If you're suggesting we contact the humans and ask them to return, I strongly object. I'm not suggesting that, Vethrak said, though part of him wanted to. I'm simply stating facts. Since humanity's departure, we have experienced significant disruptions across multiple sectors. Temporary disruptions, Thorum insisted. We simply need time to adapt. How much time? Asked Ambassador Sirik of the Mendal. She looked tired. My homeworld's medical system is failing. People are dying because we can't get the supplies we need. Then develop new supplies. With what? We don't have the manufacturing facilities. The humans built them. Then build new facilities, and we don't know how. Sirik's voice rose. We relied on human expertise. We thought they would always be here. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Many species were discovering the same thing. They had depended on humans far more than they realized. Thorum's scales flushed red. This is ridiculous. We survived for thousands of years before humans arrived. We can survive without them now. Can we? The luminary observer's voice echoed through the chamber. The ancient being rarely spoke during sessions. Everyone fell silent. The humans were here for only 2 centuries, the luminary continued. But in that time, they became woven into the fabric of galactic society. They fixed problems you didn't know existed. They prevented disasters you never heard about. They kept the peace in places you forgot to watch. That's their fault for not asking for recognition, Thorum snapped. They did not want recognition. They wanted cooperation. The luminary's energy form pulsed with something that might have been sadness, and when they asked for your help with their most important project, you refused. What project? Vethrak asked. They never gave details. No, they kept it classified. For your protection. Protection from what? The luminary dimmed. You will learn soon enough. The humans kept many secrets. They kept them because you were not ready to hear the truth. Because you called them primitive and aggressive. Because you celebrated when they left. The chamber was silent. The humans were the gardeners, the luminary said quietly. They tended to problems before they grew into disasters. They maintained systems you took for granted, and when predators came near, they stood between you and danger. What predators? Someone asked. The ones the humans were fighting while you mocked them. The luminary faded from the chamber, leaving only questions behind. Vethrak returned to his office and pulled up his research on human military activities. He had been investigating for weeks. The patterns he found were disturbing. Humans had been moving massive military resources toward the galactic edge, not toward Consul space, away from it. They had been building defensive stations in seemingly random locations. They had been developing weapons technology far beyond what would be needed for normal conflicts. Why? What were they defending against? Vethrak opened a secure communication channel. He composed a message to Earth. A simple request for information. An offer to talk, he sent it. The response came back immediately. Message undeliverable. Recipient not found. Vethrak tried again. Same result. It was as if humanity had erected a wall around their territory. Nothing was getting in or out. He sat in his crystalline chair and felt cold fear settle into his core. The luminary had warned them. The humans had tried to tell them something important, and they had refused to listen. Now the humans were gone and something was very, very wrong. In the darkness at the edge of the galaxy, sensors began picking up strange readings. Ships that shouldn't exist. Energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. The reports filtered slowly through bureaucratic channels. No one paid much attention. Space was big. Strange readings happened all the time. But the readings kept coming, and they were getting closer. Security Chief Draven saw the reports 3 weeks later. He stared at them for a long time. Then he sent an urgent message to Consul Prime Vethrak. The message said only, "We have a problem." Consul Prime Vethrak stood in the archive room deep beneath the Consul chamber. Around him, holographic displays showed 200 years of records. He had been here for 3 days straight, barely sleeping, searching through files that most people had forgotten existed. What he was finding terrified him. "Sir?" His assistant appeared at the door. "You asked me to inform you when the investigator arrived. Send them in." A figure entered the archive room. She was small, with dark hair and tired eyes. She wore simple clothes, nothing that marked her as anyone important. "Consul Prime Vethrak," she said. "My name is Una. I believe you've been looking for answers about what humanity was doing in the galaxy." Vethrak's crystalline form shifted colors. "You're human." "Yes. I thought all humans had left. Almost all." Una walked to one of the holographic displays. "A few of us stayed behind quietly. We wanted to see how long it would take for you to figure it out." "Figure what out?" Una pulled up a file. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of red markers scattered across it. "Tell me, Consul Prime, what do you see?" Vethrak studied the map. "Those are crime syndicates, pirate bases, criminal organizations." "Were," Una corrected. "Past tense. These organizations no longer exist. Humanity eliminated them over the past century." "That's impossible." "We would have known." "Would you?" Una zoomed in on one marker. This was the Kelran Syndicate. They specialized in attacking transport ships carrying refugees. Very selective. They only hit ships from species that couldn't afford to fight back. She pulled up another file. The syndicate operated for 80 years before humans found them. "We spent 6 months tracking them down. Then we eliminated them in a single night. 47 ships destroyed. No survivors, no evidence." Vethrak felt cold. "You're describing mass murder." "We're describing pest control," Una said flatly. "These weren't legitimate organizations. They were predators. We dealt with them the way you deal with predators." She pulled up more files. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Each one showed a criminal organization that had mysteriously disappeared. Pirates, slavers, weapons dealers. All gone. "You never reported any of this," Vethrak said. "We didn't need to report it. You weren't being attacked, so you didn't notice the attacks had stopped. That was the point." Una moved to another display. This one showed stellar phenomena. Stars that looked unstable. Asteroid fields. Comet trajectories, what about these? "Natural disasters that didn't happen," Una said. "This star was going to go supernova 12 years ahead of schedule. Would have destroyed 3 inhabited systems. We stabilized it." "How?" "That's classified. But it's stable now." "You're welcome." She pointed to another marker. "This asteroid was on course to hit the Drellian homeworld. We redirected it. The Drellians never knew they were in danger. More files. More disasters prevented. More threats eliminated. All of it done quietly. Without recognition, without thanks." Vethrak felt his understanding of the past 2 centuries shift. "How many times did you save us?" "We stopped counting at 3,000, Una said. "That was 50 years ago. Why didn't you tell us?" Una laughed. It was not a happy sound. "We tried. Every time we did, you called us paranoid. You said we were exaggerating threats to make ourselves look important. You said we were too aggressive and violent." She pulled up communication records. Vethrak recognized them. Reports that humanity had filed over the years. Warnings about threats. Requests for assistance. All of them had been dismissed by the Consul. "So we stopped telling you," Una continued. "We just handled the problems ourselves, quietly. We figured if you didn't want to know, we wouldn't bother you with the details. But the project you requested help with, Bethrak said. The classified project. What was it? Yuna's expression grew dark. That wasn't our project, Consul Prime. That was yours. We were trying to protect you. We needed your help to do it properly. When you refused, when you made it clear you didn't want us here, we stopped protecting you. Protected us from what? Before Yuna could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the console chamber. Vethrak's communicator exploded with urgent messages. Security Chief Draven's voice came through. Sir, we have a situation. Multiple contacts at the Galactic edge. Unknown ships. Hundreds of them. Vethrak's crystalline body went cold. Unknown? What species? No species we recognize. They're not responding to hails. They're just coming. Answer? They're destroying everything in their path. Yuna closed her eyes. You figured it out too late. What are those ships? Vethrak demanded. The Void Swarm. Yuna pulled up another file. We discovered them 20 years ago during deep space exploration. They're not from our galaxy. They're from the dark space between galaxies. We don't know what they are exactly. Biomechanical. Part living, part machine. All hunger. The holographic display showed massive ships. They were wrong somehow. The shapes didn't make sense. They hurt to look at. They consume everything, Yuna continued. Planets, stars, civilizations, they strip systems down to nothing and move on. We found them at the Galactic edge. They were preparing to enter Consul space. And you didn't tell us. We tried. Yuna's voice rose. 20 years ago, we came to the Consul with evidence. We showed you the sensor readings. We warned you. Do you remember what Delegate Thorum said? Vethrak did remember. Thorum had called it human fear-mongering. He had accused humanity of fabricating threats to gain power. The Consul voted 647 to 200 to deny our request for assistance, Yuna said. You refused to help us build defenses. You refused to commit resources. You refused to even acknowledge the threat was real. So you fought them alone? For 20 years. Yuna's face was hard. We built defensive stations at the Galactic edge. We developed new weapons. We threw everything we had at holding them back. And we succeeded. Barely. The swarm probed our defenses for 2 decades. They couldn't break through. Then why are they here now? Because we're not there anymore. Yuna met his eyes. We withdrew from Consul space. We took our defenses with us. The wall we built between you and the swarm? It's gone. We're only protecting human territory now. Vethrak felt his world collapse. You left us defenseless. You told us to leave, Yuna said quietly. You celebrated when we withdrew. You called us primitive. You said the galaxy would be better without us, so we left. We took our walls, our weapons, and our protection. We gave you what you wanted. But you knew this would happen. Yes. You knew we would be destroyed. Yes. And you left anyway? Yuna was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was tired. We stayed as long as we could, Consul Prime. We fought for you for 20 years. We died for you. We bled for you. We protected you from a threat you refused to acknowledge existed. She pulled up casualty reports. Human casualties. The numbers were staggering. 3 million humans died holding the line at the Galactic edge, Yuna said. 3 million people died protecting species that called them primitive. That celebrated their departure. That refused to help them. Vethrak had no words. When you voted against our final request for cooperation, Yuna continued, when you made it absolutely clear that you didn't want us here, we had a choice. We could keep fighting and dying for people who hated us, or we could withdraw and protect our own. You chose to abandon us, Wei. We chose to respect your wishes. Yuna's eyes were hard. You wanted us gone, we left. What happens now is your responsibility, not ours. More alarms. More urgent messages. The Void Swarm was advancing into Consul space. The first colonies were already being evacuated. Help us, Vethrak said. It came out as a whisper. Please, no, we were wrong. We were blind. We didn't understand. But please help us anyway. Yuna walked to the door. Then she stopped and looked back. There is help available, she said. Human evacuation ships are already en route to Consul space. Any species that wants protection can come to human territory. We will give them shelter, food, safety. We won't abandon anyone who asks for help. But you won't fight for us? We fought for you for 20 years while you mocked us. We won't fight for you anymore, but we will save anyone who wants to be saved. The choice is yours, she left. Vethrak stood alone in the archive room. surrounded by 200 years of secrets. All the things humans had done. All the threats they had stopped. All the times they had saved the galaxy without asking for recognition, and the Consul had repaid them with contempt. Now the Void Swarm was coming, and humanity was offering evacuation instead of protection. They would save lives, but they wouldn't save the Consul. Vethrak understood. Finally, too late, he understood everything. The humans weren't punishing them. They weren't seeking revenge. They were simply letting go. After 2 centuries of thankless service, they were stepping back and letting the galaxy handle its own problems. And the galaxy had no idea how to do that. Vethrak activated his communicator. This is Consul Prime Vethrak to all member species. Begin emergency evacuation procedures immediately. We have been breached. The Void Swarm was here, and humanity was not coming to save them. The Galactic Consul chamber was chaos. 847 species all trying to talk at once. Screens showed the advancing Void Swarm, red markers spreading across the galactic map like a disease. The outer colonies fell first. The swarm ships descended on them like locusts. What they left behind was nothing. Not rubble, not ruins, just empty space where planets used to be. The swarm consumed everything, rock, metal, the planets themselves. Evacuate the border systems, Security Chief Draven shouted. Get everyone out. But there weren't enough ships. The Consul had never planned for an evacuation of this scale. Why would they? They had been safe for so long. They hadn't known humanity was the reason they were safe. Delegate Thorum stood at his station, his scales pale with fear. His homeworld was in the path of the swarm. 3 billion people lived there. He had evacuation ships for maybe 10 million. Deploy the defense fleets, someone shouted. What defense fleets? Draven's voice was bitter. We have patrol ships, security vessels. Nothing that can fight that. On the screens, a Consul defense force engaged the swarm. 20 ships against 3 swarm vessels. It was over in minutes. The swarm ships tore through the Consul vessels like they were made of paper. Not one swarm ship was even damaged. The chamber fell silent as they watched. We need the humans, Ambassador Sirik said. Her voice shook. We need to ask them for help. They said no, Vethrak reminded her. They're offering evacuation, not protection. Then we beg. We apologize. We do whatever it takes to get them to help us. Consul Prime Vethrak had already tried. He had sent 17 messages to Earth in the past 6 hours. All undeliverable. The humans had shut down all communication channels. They weren't refusing to help. They simply weren't responding at all. Then, as if summoned by their desperation, every screen in the chamber flickered. The image of the swarm's advance was replaced by a human face. Captain Doyen looked tired. He wore the uniform of Earth's defense forces. Behind him, the bridge of a massive warship was visible. And beyond that, through the view screen, dozens more human ships could be seen. This is Captain Doyen of the Earth Defense Fleet, he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. We are transmitting on all frequencies. We know you can hear us. The chamber erupted in shouts, hope, relief. The humans were here. They had come to save them after all. Doyen raised his hand. The chamber quieted. We are not here to fight for the Galactic Consul, he said. The hope in the chamber died as quickly as it had appeared. We are here to offer evacuation. Any species, any individual who wishes to seek shelter in human-protected space is welcome. We are transmitting coordinates for rally points. Our transport ships are already en route. Captain Doyen! Vethrak activated his communication channel. Please, we need your help. We can't fight this alone. We know, Doyen said. His face showed no satisfaction at their desperation, only sadness. We fought the swarm alone for 20 years. We know exactly what it's like. We were wrong, Vethrak said. We didn't understand. We didn't know what you were doing. You didn't want to know, Doyen corrected gently. We told you. You called us liars. We showed you evidence. You said it was fabricated. We asked for help. You celebrated our departure, but we were fools. Yes, but you were honest fools. You genuinely believed we were the problem, that the galaxy would be better without us. So we gave you what you wanted. We left. Thorum pushed forward. Captain, my homeworld is in the swarm's path. 3 billion people, please. Doyen looked at him. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Delegate Thorum, I remember you. You led the vote to deny our request for assistance. You said humanity's warnings were fear-mongering. You said we were trying to manipulate the Consul. Thorum's scales had gone completely white. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Please don't let my people die because of my mistake. We won't. Doyen's voice softened. We're sending 30 transport ships to your homeworld right now. They'll evacuate as many as possible, but we can't save everyone. There isn't enough time. Fight for us, someone shouted from the chamber. You have the weapons. We can see your fleet. Yes, we have weapons, Doyen agreed. Weapons we developed specifically to fight the swarm. Weapons we built over 20 years while you called us primitive. Weapons we died testing so that we could protect you. He paused. The bridge behind him showed activity. Crew members working at stations, weapons being prepared. We will use these weapons, Doyen said. But not for the Galactic Consul. We will use them to defend the evacuation corridors. We will use them to protect the transport ships. We will use them to ensure that anyone who wants our help can reach safety. But not to defend our worlds? Sirik asked. No. Doyen's face was sad but firm. You made your choice. You voted to deny us assistance. You celebrated when we left. You didn't want us in your galaxy. We're respecting that choice. You're condemning billions to death. We're offering billions a chance at life, Doyen corrected. Anyone who wants to evacuate can do so. Anyone who wants our protection can have it. But they have to come to us. We won't fight your war for you. Not anymore. Trade Minister Kale spoke up. This is revenge. You're punishing us, no. Doyen shook his head. Revenge would be us watching you die and doing nothing. We're not doing that. We're offering every single person in Consul space the chance to live. We're risking our ships and our people to run evacuation operations. We're opening our territory to refugees. He leaned forward. But we will not die for people who despise us. We will not bleed for civilizations that called us primitive. We did that for 20 years. We lost 3 million people protecting you from a threat you refused to believe existed. We're done. The chamber was silent. The evacuation corridors are open, Doyen said. Rally point coordinates are being transmitted now. Anyone who wants to live should head for human space immediately. We'll defend the corridors as long as we can, but make your choice quickly. The swarm doesn't stop. The transmission ended. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the chamber erupted in arguments. Some species wanted to fight. Some wanted to evacuate. Some wanted to try to negotiate with the swarm. Vethrak knew the truth. There was no fighting the swarm without human help. There was no negotiating with it. There was only evacuation or death. Open the evacuation routes, he said quietly. Give the coordinates to everyone. Anyone who wants to leave should leave now. Within hours, ships began flooding toward human space. Millions of people abandoning their homes, their worlds, their civilizations, all heading for the protection that humanity offered. The human defense fleet positioned itself along the evacuation corridors. When swarm ships tried to attack the fleeing refugees, human warships engaged them. The battles were brutal, but the humans won. Their weapons, developed over 20 years of fighting, could hurt the swarm. But they only fought to protect the evacuation. They didn't advance. They didn't try to push the swarm back. They just held the line long enough for people to escape. Delegate Thorum stood on an evacuation ship and watched his homeworld disappear behind him. The swarm had reached it. He knew his family was still down there. He hadn't been able to get them out in time. He had doomed them with his arrogance. On the border of human space, Ambassador G1 stood on the observation deck of a massive station. Before her, hundreds of ships were arriving. Refugee ships from 1,000 different species, all fleeing to human protection. Human personnel were working around the clock, processing refugees, providing medical care, distributing food and shelter. No one was turned away. No one was judged. If you came seeking help, humanity helped you. Captain Minho approached her. Latest numbers, ma'am. We've evacuated 42 billion people so far. Projections say we can save about 60% of the Consul's population if the corridors hold. 40% would die. Billions of people. Keep the corridors open as long as possible, Jiwan said. Her voice was steady, but tears ran down her face. Save everyone we can. Yes, ma'am. In the Galactic Consul chamber, now evacuated to a mobile station, Consul Prime Vethrak watched the swarm consume his civilization. World after world falling, species going extinct in hours. Humanity could stop this. He knew they could. They had the weapons, the ships, the knowledge. They had held the line for 20 years, but they weren't coming to save the Consul. They were only saving the people. Una appeared beside him. She had been helping with evacuations. You could stop this, Vethrak said. You have the power. We do, Una agreed. We could deploy our full fleet. Engage the swarm directly. Push them back. Maybe even destroy them. But you won't. No, why not? Una looked at the screens showing the evacuation. Millions of people fleeing. Human ships protecting them. Human personnel helping them. Human resources feeding and sheltering them. Because you told us to leave, she said simply. You made it clear we weren't wanted. You celebrated our departure, so we left. And when we left, we took our protection with us. But you're still helping. We're helping people. Individual beings who are suffering. That's different from helping the Consul. The Consul made its choice. You voted against us. You dismissed our warnings. You refused our requests for cooperation. She turned to face him. We will save every single person who asks for help, but we will not save your government. We will not save your territory.